Over the past couple of years, me and my team have been busy building ridiculously high traffic websites. One of the strategies we use to grow our traffic is blogging. And in this video, I'm going to outline some of the key things we do to make a great blog post. If you apply all of the tips that I share in this video to your blogs, you can expect to see similar results to what me and my team achieve on our projects. We're not going to look at how to research or write the blog post in this video, but what we're going to look at is how we structure and then ultimately publish the blog post. And so I've put together this article right here that shows how things are done when they're done right. And so if you come and have a look at this article, you'll see what I'm talking about. And the first point that I want to make is how, if you look through here, you'll notice that every different section of the blog post is broken up by H2 headings. So this is a H2 right here. And this explains what this next section of content is going to be about. And then when we go down, we get to another H2. And that explains what this section of content is going to be about. And then we get to the next one and that explains what that's about, etc. The only place that this then changes is when you get to one like this one right here, which is the point I'm making right now, where we've got this H2 that explains what this section is going to be about. But then we've got this H3 right here. And what the H3 does is that explains what this subsection is going to be about. Because it's still part of this H2, it's all still part of the same section, but we're breaking it up here so that it makes it easier for people when they're skimming through to see, what this part of that content is about. And it also makes it a lot easier for Google to understand what the page is about as well when we're structuring it in this way. So, super important stuff that we do that. We need to make sure that we are breaking up our content with appropriate heading tags that are actually going to help the reader as they move through the article. The next thing that we do is make sure we're focusing on the quality of the content over the quantity of the content. So I'm not interested in 7,000 words of AI drivel, but what I do want to see is 2,000 words or 1,500 words or maybe 3,000 words of super high quality content that gives the reader everything they need to know and also a little bit more as well, but without going off into unrelated things. So some of the things that we do to make sure that our content is really high quality is we write in short paragraphs, and what this means is it's going to make it so that the reader's going to be more engaged. When you come down through an article like this and you see that you haven't got a massive, so you imagine this here was all one paragraph, that's going to feel like a bit of a commitment to try to read all that. But if you break it up in short paragraphs like that, short sentences, some of these are even one sentence, one short sentence like this, it don't feel like it's too much effort to read this article, and so it keeps people engaged. We also vary the sentence structure. So you'll see here we've got a little bit of text, comma, and then a lot of text full stop. We got some bullet points, we got a short paragraph, we got this here which is a real long sentence. We got all these different lengths when it comes here to the sentences and the paragraph lengths as well. And the reason why we do that is because A, it makes it a lot easier for people to read. If it was all one paragraph, one short paragraph, people are going to get sick of constantly scrolling. But we vary it up. And then the other thing is that when you think about all of these AI writers and stuff, you'll notice that they all give back content in a very similar structure. It's always the same structure when it comes to sentences and paragraphs. And so we're just mixing it up throughout the whole thing like this, writing naturally like a human being would. And then we're not going to be seen as doing AI content because we're not. The next thing we avoid is keyword stuffing. I don't need to go into this in much depth, but it's an old practice where you would force keywords into the content. We don't need to do that because the way that we write is we cover the topic fully. We go into depth on everything that's going to help the reader, and so we're going to naturally bring up these keywords that people would type in anyway. So we don't even try to get keywords in the content. We just explain it in as much depth as possible, and then we naturally get them there. The next thing that we don't do as well when it comes to focusing on the quality of our content is we never copy someone else's content word for word. There's nothing wrong with having a look at somebody else's website, reading what they've said, learning from what they've said, and then rewording it in our own way. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what most of the internet is. But we never ever copy it word for word and then publish that on our site, because that is a really clear indication of a low quality article. When Google looks at that and it goes, we've indexed that content on website A and now your website is now publishing it, you're obviously copying from them. I'm going to rank them higher than you because they're clearly better. It doesn't always work that way, but more often than not it will. So that's something else that we don't do. Another thing that we do is we always use simple language. So if you can use a simple word instead of a complicated word, use a simple word. We're not trying to make ourselves seem intelligent here. We're trying to help the reader so that they don't have to go back to Google and then find another website to click on. So it's more important that we give them what they want than we feel smart. And the other thing we do is we always stay on topic. So we don't start talking about irrelevant stuff because it's stuff that we like. We make sure we're always focused on giving our reader exactly what they want. I always tell my writers to write as if their life depended on the other person understanding what they're saying. Because if your life depended on it, you wouldn't go off topic, you wouldn't care about sounding smart, and you'd make sure that you was as clear and precise as possible, going into every little detail that might help them understand and checking the accuracy of everything you say. The next thing that we do is we give the reader the answer they're looking for straight away, and then we expand out after with more details, and then we might go into the next logical question after that. So this article right here isn't a great example of this in motion because this is 26 different tips, and so we go through loads of different things here. But if we look at a direct question like what is SEO, and we look at who's ranking number one, so we've got some ads here, and then we've got the person ranking number one right here. Let's have a look at their content. So their content, the very first paragraph says, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. In simple terms, SEO means the process of improving your website to increase its visibility in Google, Microsoft Bing, and other search engines whenever people search for products you sell, services you provide, information on topics in which you have a deep expertise and or experience. They've given the answer straight away. They're ranking number one. They do have authority on their side, but this is a very good article, and this is one of the reasons why it's ranking number one, is because they're giving people the answer straight away. But now let's look at what they do after that, right? They then go on and they say what you're going to get from this article. So this is the reason to keep reading. But then they say, how is SEO different from SEM and PPC? So this is the next logical question. This is explained, because people have heard of the term SEO, they've gone, what's that? They've come here, they've learned what that is, and then their next question might be, oh, is that the same as search engine marketing? Or, oh, is that the same as PPC that people talk about? And so here they're going to explain the differences between the two, or three, and then they're going to go to the next logical question, why is SEO important? So each time they go into the next bit and they're expanding out. Now, a lot of newer writers would think that with a question like this, if you just give that there, you're telling people the answer straight away. And so they would normally want to start the article with something like SEO is an important thing for businesses if they're looking to expand and find new customers, and they'd beat around the bush. Whereas the companies that are winning right now at SEO are giving the answer straight away and then expanding after with all the things that the person might want. So again, it's all about focusing on the reader of the page and giving them everything they want, and then giving them more and more. Because think about it, right? Like I said, they've come here, they've heard of SEO, and then they're going to think, oh, is that the same as SEM? Now, they might go back to Google and search that, but instead, they've covered it right here, so they're not going to have to go back. And that's a very good signal that we want to constantly send to Google, is that when people are looking for something, we give them the answer and they don't have to go back and try to find some more stuff. So that's really high quality content. These guys are doing a good job. They obviously know what they're doing, and this is exactly what we do as well. The next thing that we do is we make sure that we're breaking up our articles with relevant images throughout the content. So if you've got a great big wall of text, it's going to get very boring. It's going to make people not want to carry on reading. And so we put images throughout our articles like this right here and like this right here, just to break it up and illustrate the point that we're making. Now, a lot of articles aren't going to be like this one, where we're actually able to show exactly every single thing that we're doing. Some of them are going to be about a topic, and let's say we're talking about different diets. We might be talking about some diet, and then we might not have a good picture to illustrate that, but we might be able to put a picture of the food that you eat on that diet. So it might be a bread diet, and then we'll have a picture of some bread, just to illustrate the point, break it up, keep it interesting. Now, when we put those images on the site, what we need to make sure we're doing is optimizing them for page load times. So we don't want to have like a 8 megabyte image on the website. We want to make sure that the images aren't any bigger than they need to be so that our website loads faster. And so one of the tools you can use for that is a tool called TinyPNG. this one right here, and you can just drag and drop your images into here, and then it will optimize and give them to you back, and then they'll be a lot smaller without losing any quality that's noticeable to the human eye 99% of the time. So we get the image file size small, and then after that what we want to do is we want to name the image something appropriate. So if we have a look at this image right here, for example, this image is named Search Console after putting a Zoic ads onto the site. And that's because that's exactly what that shows with that website right there. It was a website that I put a Zoic ads on, and that was all I done, and the traffic went up considerably as a result of that. So there's no need to force keywords into here, because we're talking about the subject anyway. The images are going to be relevant. So it's not like, you know, we need to try to trick Google or anything. If we just tell it exactly what we've got here, we're going to do well, because these are all going to be LSI keywords anyway. So we want to make sure that we're naming the image the correct thing, as I just showed, and then we'll set the alt tag on that image to match whatever the file name is. And it's important we do that. We want to make sure we're setting that alt tag to be the same as the file name. The last tip I've got on this breaking up the content with relevant images is that there's another misconception about having images that are only used on one blog post that we don't worry about. So we'll be more than happy, if I'm writing about this same topic in another article, I will reuse this image. If I'm talking about internal linking and I'm talking about this, you know, exact thing that I was doing right here, I'll reuse this image on another blog post. As long as it's relevant and it makes sense, we reuse them. So going back to that example with the bread, if we're then talking about, you know, things you shouldn't feed ducks, I'm going to put that same picture of the bread on there. So, you know, we can reuse the same images over and over again. There's no problem, as long as it's relevant to that article. We don't want to just randomly use them. As long as it's relevant to the article, we can reuse them on multiple different blog posts. The next thing we do is we style the blog posts with our custom CSS classes. And if you have a look on this article right here, we've got these green boxes that look like this. We've got these quotes that look like this. We've got these arrows that look like this. This is just a bullet point list that's styled with a class of arrows. We've got red boxes like this. We've got blue boxes as well that are going to be used on this article. We've also got, so here's a blue box. We've got ticks and crosses, so here's some crosses. And all of these different styles like this that we apply, and again, really breaks up the article, makes it stand out a lot more, keeps people engaged, makes it look custom coded. And this is another important thing that we do that makes our content look much higher quality than our competitors' content. The next thing that we do is when we're making internal links in our article, we're only adding them if they either help the reader with the current thing we're talking about, or if it might be something of interest for them later. So what a lot of companies do is they'll look through their entire site, look for a word that they're trying to rank for, and then they'll make that there the anchor text that then links through to the page they're trying to rank, which is good. But the problem is it often creates quite a poor user experience, because it doesn't really make sense in the context of what the reader's reading right now. And our focus is always on creating the best article on the internet. And it's not a very good article if we're randomly linking to stuff that if they click on, they'll think, well, why did they link us here? So we always make sure that it's either going to help the reader with what they're trying to do right now, or it might be something that they're actually interested in because they're on this article. And the way that I do that is right here, where we've got this see also and then some sort of link. This is the best method that I've found, and we've been using this for quite a while now, and it's worked really well. And I'll show you an example of a place that this is used in this article, because that was an example up there of this method. One of the good things about doing it in this way is that what you end up with is the anchor text is already going to be optimized for SEO, because you're going to make the anchor text whatever the title of the page is. So you're going to get your keywords in there naturally, and you're not trying to force it. And on top of that, if you've written your titles well, which we do, it's always going to have something in there that's going to encourage the click as well. So if you have a look at this part of the content right here, I'm talking about putting questions into a Yoast FAQ block, and then at the bottom here I've said see also turn the Yoast FAQ schema block into an accordion. So we're talking about here how to add the questions to the block, and then I've got this article that teaches you how to then turn that block into an accordion. And accordion is one of these here where you can click and open the questions. So it makes total sense to link through to that article using that see also method, because they might be interested in that, and it's also going to help that article rank higher as well. The next thing we do is we add these FAQ sections to the bottom of every single blog post that we write, or 99% of the blog posts that we write. And the point of this is that, one, it can make the SERP listing bigger, so other people have got a small listing, we got a big one, because these can get pulled into the SERP. And it can also show Google that we're totally relevant to this article when we're including the different questions that Google is bringing up as the people also ask when people search for this query. So let's take a look at this one right here. I targeted this keyword. When you come down to the people also ask section, you've got how do I optimize my WordPress blog for SEO? How do I optimize my WordPress blog? How do I increase SEO traffic in WordPress? How do I get good SEO for my blog? So these are the questions Google thinks are relevant. Some of these aren't, because this one right here, how do I optimize my blog for my WordPress blog? That might be speed optimization, so that's probably not relevant. But this one right here is, and so we'd take this and we'd put this in our FAQ section, which I did if we have a look down here. And then, so we want to make sure that we've got 5 on each article. I need to add another one into this. And so we'd take that and we'd answer that question. But then if we want to get more back that Google see as relevant to this keyword, but also relevant to this type, and we're saying we want more questions relevant to this, we can click on this, close it, and then you'll notice it's loaded in 2 more. And I like this one right here, so I would click on this one, close it, and now I've got 2 more. And I like this one right here, so I would click on that, close it, and then I've got more. And so every time you're going to keep getting back more questions that are relevant to that same question, and then after a while you can build up a really big list of questions there that are relevant. We don't really want to spend loads and loads of time on this, so this is why we always stick to around 5. But just so you know, you can get loads using this method. There's also another website out there, this one right here called Answer Socrates, which you can put your keyword in, and then when you click search it will bring you back the different things that are coming up. The problem with this tool is that it's very slow because a lot of people are using it and it's free. So then there's Answer the Public, which is a good alternative, but that is a paid tool, and so you only get, I think, 1 search a day or something. So I use this one from time to time. It don't usually run quite as slow as it's running right now, but this is a really good way to do it if this isn't really bringing you back anything of use. The next thing that we do is we put in the effort when it comes to the featured images, and there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one is that featured image can get pulled into the SERPs on mobile and sometimes desktop as well, and so it's going to help with the click-through rate. For the internal traffic, that image is going to come up on the blog index, or maybe on the homepage if you're pulling it in that way, or if you've got a related articles section like this, then it's going to get pulled in there. So again, it's going to help with the click-through. And then also, if you've got the words on there that you're targeting on that article, on that featured image, Google can read the text on the image. So I want them to see that text on that image so they know that it's relevant to this keyword. So I will make them like this. Sometimes I'll have an image and I'll have text overlaid over the top of the image, but I want to make sure that it matches this here, because I want there to be congruency when people are coming from Google and then they're coming in here. This is going to be the first thing that they're going to see. So it's going to be important that it matches their expectations, otherwise they're going to click back. So I usually make it match this here, and I usually have very similar text. But something that I don't do is, you see how this is 26 WordPress blog SEO tips. I didn't put the 26 on the featured image because I might want to add one tomorrow, and then it's 27 and I've got to recreate this image again, and I don't want to have to do more stuff than I need to when there's no benefit in it. So that's how we go about designing these. The other thing is, where we can, we will show the end result of what you get for doing what the article is going to tell you how to do, instead of showing the process. And that's because people are always more interested in the end result than they are in the effort they got to put in. So in this example, I've showed the result of what they want. So they want SEO tips, which means they want to grow their traffic. So I've showed this Search Console report for something that I advise in one of the tips what had this effect on it. And so I'm showing them what they want. However, we can't always do this because we might not have a picture that actually shows that end result. And so instead, we might have to show something in the process of it. So going back to the diet thing, maybe we can only show some of the foods that they'll eat on the diet, and that's a close second best. And so we often have to do that if we're not talking about a topic like this, or it's something where there isn't really an end result, for example. Then we might show someone in the process of it, like if they're playing the piano. If I'm writing an article on how to become the world's greatest piano player, it's kind of hard to get a picture showing the end result of that, but maybe I can get a picture of someone playing the piano. So that's how we do that. The other thing is, when we're naming these images right here, we want to name this image to be exactly what the article title is. And again, won't include that number right there, but we'd just take this bit. That's what we'd want to name this image right here. And the same thing applies when it comes to the image file size. We can either run it through TinyPNG, or when we're creating an image like this, we'll usually just create it in Photoshop or Canva, and so we'll already have it optimized down small enough, saving it as a JPEG so it's not a really big file. And then the final thing that we do before we click publish is we go back to Google and we search for our main keyword, and then we compare the article that we've written to the articles that are already ranking in the top 3 positions. We'll look through all of the articles that rank in Google when we're first figuring out how we're going to structure this article. We're doing our research to see the other things people cover. We'll have already gone through it all in the past, but we're now going to go back to Google and we're going to have a look and honestly compare what we've just created with the ones that are ranking in the top 3 positions. Because if we're not as good as, if not better than them, then we're not going to rank. So we need to take that keyword, go back to Google, have a look at the ones that are ranking in the top 3. And then we want to go through each of the points they've made. So they've got point 1, have we covered this? Have we covered this? Have we covered this? Have we covered this? Have we covered the net, etc. Go through each of these different things here and then find what we haven't covered, and then we want to add it into the article here. We want to make sure that we read what they say on it, and then we want to look into that a little bit more and then make sure that we're giving a better answer than what they gave, and then we want to add that to our article so that we've got a more complete, more comprehensive article than anyone else has got that's ranking on the first page. And that's how you really win at SEO, is you're basically learning from everybody, combining all the information, mixing it with your own experience as well, and then you're creating an article that Google loves because you're covering all the things that it's already shown us that it wants you to include to rank that article. And you're also creating an article that answers every single thing that the reader wants. So you'd go back through the article here and then find a way to add in these different things. So we'd want to be adding in a section on whatever it is, www versus non-www. Now that isn't anywhere near as important as some of the other things that I've mentioned in this article. So I might want to put a H2 in here that would be other things to consider. And then I might say, here are some of the more basic things if you don't understand how to set up your WordPress site. You might want to consider, and then SSL certificates and www versus non-www, all of them sort of things, permalink settings, all of them bits that you do once when you first set up the blog. If other people are covering that, then we want to cover it too, and we want to add that in here. So that's the last things that we check. We go through, compare what have they said that we haven't said. Okay, we want to make sure we're adding a section on that as well. And then once we've got it to that level and we've covered everything, we've created the best article on it on the internet, then we can go ahead and publish it. And that is how we structure and publish blogs for SEO. If you found this video helpful, let me know by leaving a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video.